Alright, now let's go ahead and add more spice to our upper body here, and a way to do that is by creating a prop here that's going to be on top of our body, which is going to be the holster vest. So what I mean by that is I found this page here. I always been looking at this page because I'm just a big Frank Zeng fan. He works at Naughty Dog. I love his style. I love his realistic character creations. So if you guys look at his page, very great, amazing artist, one of the best, Frank Zeng. So check out his ArtStation page, guys. I'm going to use these photos here just as an inspiration. So if I click here, you could see that he's wearing a holster, Drake. And I'm going to create something similar to this, not exactly like it, but similar. And you guys also feel free to go to google.com and find your own holster photos. Like I said before, it doesn't have to be exactly like it. And yeah, I did grab some photos online, and some of the photos that I have is basically this right here. So I could see more of exactly what I'm looking for. If I go ahead and zoom in, this is a little clearer on some parts. So something like this is exactly what I want to create. And also, I found some photos, of course, in youtube.com. Well, I was watching a video on YouTube and I just took some screenshots here, so I know how the back looks like. It's not as clear as I want it to be. That's why I was saying that you guys should find more references in google.com, and there's going to be like a lot of time just spent on finding references alone, right? So yeah, go ahead and definitely check out his page and go to google.com, find some photos. But holster is what we're going to be creating. So let's go ahead and select our upper body for the shirt here, just a shirt. And we are going to mask out a part of the area here that we're going to be using for the holster, so we could use it as a geometry. So we go to our scope mode, make sure you don't have anything masked, Alt-M, and then let's go to our paint mask. Alright, onto our paint mask, we can go ahead and start masking an area that we want. Make sure you have symmetry turned on, so you're doing both sides. There you go. Now, what I also like to do is I do like to select more than what I really need, because later on we are going to be smoothing this out. So really, if you smooth it out, it's going to shrink a little bit. So yeah, best to definitely grab more than you can. And go look at the back view here. And I'm gonna go ahead and make this kind of slide down like this. Go. And yeah, something like that. Now, I don't want to make his holster shrink down the chest area, so I'm going to make sure it doesn't cover much of the chest. I want the anatomy to show, because I am going to spend a little bit more time on the anatomy later, so I want to show off all that hard work. Alright, yeah, so something like that, I think. Now, of course, to extract this out, we're gonna have to go to mask, extract. Make sure you turn off extract as solid, because we are gonna extrude this ourselves, and press OK. Alright, now hit the tab key and go ahead and press A as an apple to select everything, and we're gonna be extruding this out. Okay, Alt E and extrude along normals, extrude faces along normals, and go and extrude it. Now, of course, it's going to be thin in real life, but for what we're doing, we're going to just kind of thicken up more than it really needs to be, because like I mentioned before, we are going to smooth this out, which will shrink everything. Alright, so something like that. I think that will be a good base to start with for us. And let's go back to sculpt mode. And let's go ahead and do some remeshing here. Right now I have a 0.04. I'm going to set it to 0.07. We're going to start out low poly, refresh that. Alright, I think that might be a little too low poly. I'm going to set it to 0.05. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just start smoothing this out. Right there. And smoothing this out, I feel like it is smoothing too much. And I think if I go to my smoothing here and bring down the intensity, I think it's already brought down. So I think I need to set this to 0.03 so it holds the shape a little bit more, so I can use more geometry on this. There you go. Great. Now I could go ahead and just kind of shape this out how I want it. Crank up the smoothing slightly. Go. Pull that up. Smooth it. Smooth it. Lift that up. That way. Okay. And make it go this way. And of course, this areas is just way too thick. And then for this one, I could go ahead and kind of move that down, smooth it. I'm gonna go to my inflate brush, just inflate this a bit here. Use my grab brush to kind of straighten this out and smooth it. And smooth this out. I'm gonna just kind of loosen it up. So I don't want it too tight on his body. It is an open holster, right? So if you look here, it looks loose, right? You could see that. And yeah, if you guys look over here, you see how it's definitely open up. It's not closed off, so you're not gonna see this tight on his body, and that's exactly what I want. Okay, so I want more of a relaxed, loose prop on his body, and yeah, something like that would be cool. And I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of loosen that up. Yep, something like that. Just thinking about how it flows on the body, very important. It's not just all about creating the asset and lay it on top. It's thinking about methodically, logically, and how it's supposed to be placed on the body, thinking of the forms of the anatomy and how it's supposed to interact with the shape of the body. All right, that's part of creating the props that we see on the character. So probably the tightest part around the holster is going to be right at the shoulder area, and the rest of the part just get loosened up. And for the grab brush, I'm going to decrease the intensity. I think it's too much. Move that out. Okay. And also going to look in this view. Make this a bit more. I think I probably lift this up. And this area here, there you go. I'm gonna go ahead and remesh this. Cool. Now, if you remesh your geometry, if you see that after you remesh it, there's like some holes, that's because the geometry might be a little too thin. So to fix that issue, you could always go to the inflate brush and then just inflate it, because when you remesh this, and 3D Blender doesn't like the mesh too thin, and so it will create holes if you remesh it. So yeah, just taking up some areas where you see some if it develops some holes, all right, that you don't want. Okay, cool. So really spending as much time as possible on just spending time on our holster vest here. Okay. Right now it definitely looks really symmetrical, but later on we're gonna add some asymmetrical forms. It's always good to start out with, of course, symmetrical, so make it easier. And yeah, and after that, we could also think about the buckle area that's gonna be here. So I know there's gonna be a buckle area here. So I'm gonna go ahead and mask out this certain area right here. Okay, and then I'm gonna mask this. And we're gonna hold shift and then smooth this out. So we're gonna a nice transition there. Control I to invert it. We inverted it so that this area is the part that we're gonna be able to manipulate. Okay, I'm gonna go to the grab brush and just kind of pull this out. Yep, pull that out. Yeah, it's fine, we could pull that out. Thin that out. Alt M, and we can go ahead and Control R to remesh that. Okay, and I think this area could be thinner, might be a little too thick for my taste. So I'm gonna go to my grab brush and just thin this area out. I'm gonna go use my inflate brush to just inflate this part out, because it looks like it's on a danger zone of creating holes. So I'm gonna have to thicken that area out. As you get more used to using Blender, you're gonna be able to spot which area is in danger of having holes when you remesh it. But yeah, really thin areas, be very careful. There you go. Yeah, definitely a thin area right there, danger zone right there. Inflate that. Don't worry if it looks a little messy right now, that's just the beginning. Okay, and to make this easier to see, I could even just isolate this. I go to sculpt mode again. I'm gonna go and remesh that. Actually, while we're here, I'm going to decrease the voxel size because we did make some extrusion here. I set it to 0.01. The more extrusion you make, the more you have to add more polygons to this. All right, great. Now I'm gonna go ahead and go. I'm gonna go to my scrape and just go and scrape that up. Here you go. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and show the rest of the body. Back to sculpt mode here. And scraping this out. Go. I'm gonna go to my inflate brush and just inflate this area. I'm gonna go to scrape and just scrape this area. Go. So we get a nice visualization. It's all about doing the basic shapes, and later on we are going to retopologize this, and it's gonna look a lot better, a lot cleaner, believe me when I say that. All right, and maybe this could be a little slightly thicker. Okay, and we can also go to our see here. Okay, so for this one we could go ahead and maybe mask out this area here. All right. Right there. Okay, and could go and Control I. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and isolate this and go to scope mode and go into my masking. So if I go ahead and mask this area out, you see how it's masking in the front there. So we want to be able to mask this without masking the front part, and there's a way to do that here in Blender. Thank goodness, right? So to do that, we go to our brush settings here, and we're gonna have to find the back face. It's actually called, let's see, in advanced, it's called front faces only. So turn on front faces only so that when we mask this area or sculpt this area, it's only gonna affect the ones that we see here in front of us. And you see how it's not doing the one at the back, I mean the one right here that we cannot see, right? So very, very handy. All right. So I think I prefer to do that. Now let's go to grab brush, and we could just kind of pull this out slightly. Okay, pull that out. Okay, Control I to invert it. And now go ahead and do this area. Alt M. I'm gonna go ahead and mask this area out. So what we're doing right now is just concepting, thinking about how our design is gonna be. That's why everything is rough. It's just designing things. Think about where our placement for our prop here is going to be. That's all that we're really doing. Alt M. All right. And then I'm gonna go to my Control R to remesh that. Then go to my draw sharp and just carve this in. Bring down the intensity. Yep. So I know I'm gonna have this extra detail here. To make it a little bit more sharper, we could go to our draw brush, hold Control, and do this here. Hold Control, pull out mesh on the side to make it seem like there's a hard edge. And we can go also to our scrape brush and then just scrape this thing out. There you go. All right, something like that. Not a big deal. Let's go ahead and show everything again. Okay, so we got a little nice thing going on there. Just adding a little bit, something like that makes a huge difference. And another thing that we could do here, I think I want to be able to now add the part of the holster for this part right here. So to make this part right there, we are going to be creating a separate piece, a separate geometry mesh. So back to Blender. Yeah, I think for that one, yeah, definitely a separate piece. So I think a quick way to do it is we could go ahead and select our body here, go to sculpt mode. I like to work really dirty. Is that what you call it? It's just a lot more fluidly, and just using my stylus pen, creating masking things and just pulling them out and then just sculpting, I think is the most satisfying thing than box modeling, in my opinion. I feel more like an artist, like drawing, you know? Okay, so something like that, and I'm gonna go to mask extract and turn off extract as solid and press OK. Looks like I forgot to, if you guys look, I have also extracted the ones that over here because it was still mask. So that's okay. Good, Shift H and Shift Z, hit the tab key, and I'm gonna go ahead and select all of these. So if you forgot to unmask, it will go ahead and extract that piece again for you. We don't want that. So I'm gonna go and delete that. Delete faces. Show everything again, Shift Z. Alright, so there it is. There's our stuff. And we go hit the tab key, select all of these, and then we can go ahead and move it. So really right now I need just, I guess one would work, and later on we can mirror it on the other side. Yeah, dealing with one is fine. I'm gonna go and delete it. Okay, and could go and isolate that. I'm gonna go to sculpt mode, and I'm gonna go to my grab brush and just kind of straighten this out slightly. Go and smooth it. That'll be great, smoothing it. Okay, and then we can go to our object mode, go to scale, and if you go to scale, it's all the way over here in the middle of the grid. So we could set the origin to a geometry, and then we go and scale in the X direction and just kind of flatten it a little bit. It looks like it's just gonna go in on the other side, but I'm just gonna go and scale it slightly like that, and the rest I'm just gonna go and sculpt it. It would be fine. I'm gonna go to sculpt mode, and you can see object has non-uniform scale. Sculpting may be unpredictable, so I'm gonna go back to my object mode, Control A, and apply all transformation. And go back to sculpt mode here. Turn off my symmetry, because remember, we're just working on one for now. Okay, now we could go back to show our everything, our meshes. Okay, now we can go and select this here, hit the tab key, select all the faces, and we could go ahead Alt E and extrude along normals and extrude that out. Alright, so maybe maybe something like that. Just thinking of the basic shape. Okay, and then I go to sculpt mode and smooth it. I think my smoothing is too much. I'm gonna bring it down. And I'm gonna go and remesh it. I'm gonna set the pointer for a remesh, and yeah, smooth it. You can see at the beginning it was too easy to smooth it because it has too much of a low poly, so it kind of melts down the clay. Okay, so now working on this here. Okay, and smoothing this out. Pull that out. Okay, pull this out. Gonna pull this that way. Alright. Then, looking at this here, from this view, gonna go ahead and pull this out like this. Then I'm gonna go ahead and go to my masking, and we could go ahead and mask out the area here where we're kind of thinking about where the pockets gonna be for this. Go, something like that. And also here, like so. So we're gonna have a little pocket here. Control I to invert it. Mask this so we're not touching this area. And I'm gonna go to a grab brush and just gonna pull this out like that. Pull that out. This. You go. And I'm gonna go to my draw brush. Add some depth here in this area. Add a little thickness in this area here. Control I to invert it. And over here, I could go ahead and just kind of make this slightly larger around this area. Yeah, and larger like that. I think this might be a little too round, so I'm gonna make it more like this. Gonna go to object mode, shift H, go to scope mode. Look in all views as I'm doing this. Add some clay here. And you go to scrape and just kind of harden this area out. Here you go. Very nice. And show everything again. Select this here. And since I did some extrusion here, I'm gonna go back to scope mode and go to remesh. And before I remesh that, I want to unmask. Remesh, I'm gonna set this to 0.01. And I'm gonna go and remesh that. Yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead and smooth this out. Smooth that out. I'm gonna crank up my smoothing this time. Go. Smooth that out. I'm gonna go to my draw and carve this in. Carve this area in. And crank up the intensity for my draw sharp. Carve that in. That in. Move it. Move that up. Pull that up like that. And kind of smooth this out right there. Smooth this out. Also here, I'm gonna go and kind of smooth this out. Gonna go to my draw sharp, hold control and carve that in, and then carve that out. You see how it's protruded out. And I'm gonna go to my intensity for my smoothing and bring it down. I feel like it's melting it too much, the shape. I'm gonna go to my draw sharp. So right now I'm just working a lot on just using the draw sharp brush for this. Right, great. I'm gonna go to clay strip. I'm gonna go to scrape, and there you go, scrape that. Add some more clay here and smooth. Smooth that. And I'm going to indicate that there's, of course, like a little opening here, so I'm gonna just go ahead and push this in like that. This and Control R to remesh, smooth that. Go. Gonna go to my clay strip. Push that in right there. Okay, and maybe same with this here. Push that in some more. So right here also we could kind of indicate that there is an opening right here. So I'm gonna go hold control, pull out the mesh, scrape brush and scrape this out, smooth it, and I'm gonna go ahead and push this in like that. And smooth it. Cool. And go ahead and remesh that. You got something to work with. Hold control and push that in. Add a little depth here. So we just want something so that we got a nice shape to work with, like a very basic shape. And then later on we're gonna go over the basic shape here, and when we retopologize we are going to have an easy time making this part right here. And we already have the basic shape down, so the retopology part is going to be an easy process for us. Control R to remesh it and smooth it. Alright, and then of course there's going to be, I think what I want to do for this one is I want to go ahead and go to object mode, Shift H. I'm going to go to sculpt mode. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and mask this area out. I do want to kind of curl this up slightly. Yeah, I do want to curl this up. I'm going to Control I to invert it. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just add a little slight curl to this. Some slight curl like that. It adds more interest to our piece. And I'm going to go to my draw brush and push this area in, smooth it. Go to grab brush and do this here. Push this in. Alright, something like that. Alt M, Control R to remesh that. Not really too concerned about this, but it's best to just kind of push that in, Control R, and slightly smooth it. This area is going to be somewhat flat later on. And go to our draw, push this in slightly, a bit more, go. And then this area we could kind of make this more curvy. I'm going to crank up my intensity from my smoothing. It's easier for us to smooth. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this way. Alright, slightly like that. So a little bit, add a little bit exaggeration of what I'm doing here. Go. And you don't want too much exaggeration because this is not a stylized character, but at the same time you want to add some a little bit of personality even to little props like this. Okay, so we got something like that, and we could also kind of think about where the little smaller details like the buttons is gonna be for this, something like that. And then yeah, maybe something like this. Control I, got grab brush, just gonna pull that out. Alt M. Alright, so we got a little something to work with there. Show everything. Go to sculpt mode, and then we can spend a little bit more time. What we're really concerned about when doing something like this is just the outer part, really, because the outer part is what's gonna give us the the external shape of the mesh that we're gonna need when it comes to retopologizing later. So the outer part here, the edges and stuff, more important to think about it as we're doing this. Now the inside part, not so much, because what we're going to be doing later on when we retopologize, we are going to be creating some planes here, right? To be creating this shape. Here we're probably going to have 3 here, and then we're going to be doing some extrusion, right? So we're going to have a clean mesh later. But yeah, this is more like a concept thing for sure of what we're doing. Okay. And you could even take a look at this here. Alright, so we kind of have something like this. Now go to object mode. We could go ahead and duplicate this. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of move it up first, and move it up like that. Might be a little too much. I'm gonna go to scope mode. I think that's why it's so good for us to just kind of do a rough sketch like this, so we could see which areas are too small or too big, and could manipulate it as needed. And then this area, I think we're gonna pull this down, pull this up, this down. Alright, something like that. We try to make this first pieces look as good as possible. And then, yeah, now we could look in the front view here. Yeah, we could go and kind of move this in this direction slightly. Alright. And I think I'm going to go this to that. I'm going to go ahead and kind of push this back in like that. Things sticking out too much, right? Like this. Okay. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this, Shift D, and make a copy. Go, we got something to work with like that. You could kind of rotate it. So right now, if I go here, go to move tool, rotates all the way over there. I'm gonna go set the origin to geometry. And I'm gonna go ahead and rotate this. Maybe in the Y direction. Uh-oh. R and then Y. Okay, and then this R and then Y. Up. It looks like it's all the way over there. I'm gonna set origin to geometry. And I'm gonna rotate R and then Y. Alright. So we got a good basic shape going. Go to scope mode. So yeah, I'm looking at this here. If you guys look at a photo, we are going to add something different here. So I'm gonna make it symmetrical. And we're gonna be doing that in the next video. We're gonna add some more details to this. See you then.